Welcome back to Unemployment News, the place where I complain about how Nintendo is spreading my cheeks.
My Moto-san, you're digging in me. Oh, fuck, you're digging in me. I'm new to this, bro. I'm new to this.
My sub count has stagnated at exactly 2,777 subs. I am extremely displeased and disappointed with all of you. How are we going to achieve world domination with 3,000 soldiers?
Well, maybe if you stopped playing Monster Hunter Rise and actually made content.
Subscribe and you will be given free land in my new empire. Also, feel free to come in and bully me to make more content in my Discord. I'm a lazy piece of shit, so if nobody's pushing me to do something, it'll take me a century to get it done. Story numero uno. If I had a penny for every time Nintendo did something anti-consumer, I'd have enough to make women actually notice me. Whether it's laser beaming tournaments, hosting games that came out like 2 decades ago, or trying to get every YouTuber to join a fuck-ass partner program before they even so much as think about playing Mario in a YouTube video, Nintendo is fiercely protective of their intellectual property. One could only wonder how many babies have been aborted upon Nintendo hearing that their parents were about to name them Mario. Now, I'm not a true blue libertarian, but I personally think that intellectual property is fucking stupid. For example, some Call of Duty fans were working on this mod called H2M, and even though it required you to buy the old game to play it, Activision smited that shit with the power of 1,000 lawyers, because why let us enjoy an older game when you can force us to play the new Mystery Meat Surprise that we get every year, complete with microtransactions and Battle Pass? If intellectual property didn't exist, capitalism would be able to do what it does best and decide which one of these games should come out on top. But no, and in the spirit of anti-consumer practices, Nintendo is the goddamn king. Just recently, Nintendo altered their EULA with a few new clauses. The first notable difference is the fact that Nintendo can suspend your access to any or all Nintendo account services in our sole discretion and without prior discretion and without prior notice to you. So they can just pull the plug on your account and steal all of your games without warning. And apparently whenever the fuck they feel like. Because they also say that they have the right to do it if they have a reasonable belief such a violation will occur. Not has occurred, will occur. Or as we otherwise determine to be reasonably necessary for legal, technical, and commercial reasons, such as to prevent harm to other users or Nintendo account services. People who stay with Miyamoto's cock in their mouth might argue,
They're just fighting piracy, bro. They're just fighting the pirates. You PC players don't actually buy games. They're just fighting the pirates.
No, they aren't fighting pirates, and I'll tell you why. First, the hardware you use is yours. So in my opinion, Nintendo should not have an option to press a button and delete System 32. Unlike the game licenses that companies can use to squeeze around the law and take away your property, the physical console is mine as soon as it reaches my house. Second, piracy exists for a reason. Most people pirate not out of spite, but out of convenience. If the cost of a game is worth it in the eye of the consumer, they most likely won't pirate. If they did, Steam wouldn't be nearly as big as it is now, because pretty much every Steam game can be torrented and downloaded for free. But when Nintendo continues to charge full price for games released almost a decade ago, that makes no sense. Products usually fall in price as more people buy them, as the demand goes down, but Nintendo keeping prices high as inflation goes up is basically the equivalent of them raising prices. Mario Odyssey is the same price as it was at release, but factoring in inflation, it actually costs more despite demand going down. If we're being 100% honest, Odyssey is worth at most $30 nowadays, but the official site still prices it at $49 to $50. So if you don't want to get ripped off, piracy is your only option. For this next story, I have to give some context. During the past 2 weeks, there have been 2 stories that have been making people across the globe angry. The first is a story about a black high schooler named Carmelo Anthony. I think we all know what is reported to have happened, but to remind you, he was under a tent of another high school at a football game, and a white kid, Austin Metcalf, asked him to move, most likely in a somewhat antagonistic way, which is normal for teenage boys. Carmelo said something along the lines of, "touch me and see what happens," and Austin took that as a challenge, most likely not expecting him to take a knife out of his bag and plunge it directly into his heart. Carmelo Anthony claims it was self-defense, but based on how he ran away and attempted to hide the murder weapon, people are very skeptical of that. In response to this, the earliest news outlets went out of their way to finesse the narrative into Carmelo being a victim of anti-black prejudice. And as a black guy myself, I'm ashamed to say a lot of us bought it and have since donated to Anthony's family GoFundMe. I haven't. Nobody I know has, but I know a lot of black people have fallen for it. Now, on the flip side, we already talked about the Shiloh Hendricks story with her receiving donations. Luckily, her GoFundMe has already been taken down. Anyways, these 2 stories were brought up by a VTuber named Kirsch, and she's the main subject. She basically talks about whatever she wants to, while her tits jiggle up and down town to keep people like me occupied. And on the topic of both of these GoFundMe, she said, this.
How in the name of Baby Moses on Fire did we go from the loving society of the 90s to the fucking mess in 2025? That's some chutzpah. A lot of people are just like unfollowed. That's an unfollow for me. Bostonian guy said, oh no, what am I going to do without followers that think it's okay to call a 5-year-old the N-word? I don't think most people think it's okay. I think there are a lot of people who are tired of things happening, like Daniel Penny, like the whole George Floyd incident and the Summer of Love, like the Carmelo Anthony. There's just a lot of people tired of the two-tier justice system, and they start saying some crazy things and doing some crazy things. That doesn't make it okay, but it's like, that's just kind of the consequence of where we're at now, unfortunately. And there are some people who are like accelerationists that are like, the pendulum is going to swing back so far it's going to break off. And I hope that's not true. I don't want to see that happening. I don't like seeing this kind of like violence towards other people. Like, not that words are violence, right? But there are people advocating for violence on both sides. And I don't like seeing that.
So yeah, she basically said more or less what I said last week. There are definitely racists in the bunch of people who supported Shiloh, but I'm willing to bet a lot of these people who are donated are just fed up with the state of things, and they don't really have an outlet for that anywhere else. That doesn't mean supporting Shiloh is the right thing to do. It's not. But we really do need to start hearing people's frustrations out instead of branding them as insert negative trait here. Because when you do that, this is what happens. Racists get $500,000 out of nowhere. But because of this milquetoast opinion that your average person would probably agree with, she was not only slandered by this news publication, people claim that she was running defense for racists, and because of all the backlash, one of her sponsors dropped her, a game named Crime Boss Rocket City. Despite Kirsch being by far one of the biggest creators making content on the game, they just dropped her like that. Now, I have no issue with companies not sponsoring people because they don't like what they said, within reason. Like sponsors dropping Ye because of his outbursts makes sense, it's their money. But keywords within reason. Kirsch basically said the equivalent of, I don't think everyone who supports these GoFundMes are irredeemably evil. This is a Disney princess ass take. Not everyone can be evil. Nah, but that's too spicy for our game about crime and gang warfare. And other content creators were jumping on the bandwagon, pushing for the company GamerSupps to do the same. This is scummy. This is a scummy thing to do, and why I never want to be part of this community. Going after someone's livelihood just because they said something you don't like. I hope she bounces back from this and becomes even more popular just to make these people mad. Lightning round. Qatar gave President Trump a free plane. People have criticized him for taking bribes from a place he called a terrorist country a while back. But hey, a free plane is a free plane. You don't turn down a free plane. Also, it's not technically his, it belongs to the government. HBO Max, presently named Max, is switching their name back to HBO Max. I don't use streaming services, so I'm in no way affected by this. The Tekken 8 director wants Waffle House to be a playable stage in Tekken 8, but apparently the suits at Waffle House are not answering his calls. You'd think a franchise known for combining the idea of a restaurant with World War I trench combat would jump at the chance for free advertising, but I guess not. I guess they're gonna get all the free advertising they want the next time somebody commits a war crime in one of their restaurants. And finally, Star Wars Battlefront 2 has seen a resurgence in players after Fortnite's latest Star Wars themed season and the success of Andor Season 1 and 2. The game is incredibly cheap on Steam, just $10 for the entire thing, so I strongly recommend you go pick it up before EA sees dollar signs and raises the price. The new Marvel show Ironheart has had its trailers drop, and a lot of people are divided on how good the show is going to be. I personally have my fingers crossed that the show is good, but I can't lie, I won't be surprised if it's not. A lot of Disney shows have had the issue where they're afraid to design female characters that have any flaws at all because they want to get the points of having a cool female character without the steps it takes to actually get there. What worries me is that the trailer is already sort of setting this up, because in the trailers the characters repeatedly mention how Riri is a genius and how she's just waiting for people to notice her greatness. Being a genius is not impressive at all by Marvel standards. Dumb fucks like Ant-Man exist, and they're just as cool. War Machine couldn't even put his own suit together if he tried, but he's still technically a superhero. That's why movies like the Marvels feel so bland. The characters go through technical struggle, but not emotional struggle. They're basically besties from the second they meet. Miss Marvel was the shining star of that movie, though. I like her. She's my age, too, so I can call her a baddie. I'm not a creep, bro. I'm not a creep. I'm 20 years old, and I'm gonna say it. She's a baddie.
Let 'em in, let 'em in, let 'em in.
and she carried that movie on her back. To top it off, we have the obligatory rap music in the trailer. Very subtle, Disney. People who stay with Disney's cock in their ass have been trying to shield the billion-dollar corporation with the normal...
The only reason they turn off the comments is because the people will be literally being KKK members in the comments.
Are we sure about that? Because the YouTube comments seem pretty civil to me. So just in case you guys were afraid to speak your mind on the trailer, I'm black, and I personally thought this trailer was mid as fuck, but I'm still a Marvel fan, and I hope my hunch is wrong. I don't wish for Disney to make dog shit. They just keep doing it. Apple's walled garden is beginning to look more like a prison camp with the absolute tyranny that they've been exhibiting. A few years ago, Apple removed Fortnite from the App Store globally, all because Epic Games had an option to buy V-Bucks straight from the Epic Store instead of through the Apple Store, and dodge Apple's 30% fee, which is a fee they have to pay on top of paying Apple just to exist on the platform. Google also has a fee like this, but unlike Apple devices, it's very easy to install apps straight from the browser if you don't want to deal with Google's bullshit. Apple phones by default block side-loading apps, so you are forced to use that shitty-ass App Store. Epic argued that this gives Apple an effective monopoly over every single person with an iPhone, which is a lot of people, and this means that they also have no incentive to improve the user or developer experience. The EU agreed, and twisted Apple's nipples to allow EU citizens to sideload apps, allow Fortnite on the store, along with forcing them to join us in the 21st century and use USB Type-C for charging, thank fucking God. And of course, Apple has asked the court for a pause while they can appeal the decision, but I think the fact that they would even try to appeal a pro-consumer decision like this speaks volumes. The only question I can really ask right now is, where the fuck is the US government? We use a ton of Apple products as well, and they wouldn't have a snowball's chance in hell at doing this shit if their home company nipped it in the bud. And on top of that, I sort of blame the consumer as well. See, the only reason why Apple is even as popular as they are nowadays is because of the culture. It's perceived as fashionable to use Apple products, even if they don't make any changes, even if the latest Redmi Magic or the latest Motorola or the latest Samsung blow Apple specs out of the water. People have been brainwashed into seeing the green text bubble and going, ew, poor! Samsung is over here making phones that fold like books. Meanwhile, Apple's trying to charge $2,000 for a MetaQuest with no games. The last time somebody did that... If you're really out here with an iPhone specifically for the blue text bubbles, grow the fuck up. It's pixels on a screen. Get over it. Finally, I'm feeling mean today, so let us all point and laugh as darksydephil plays the most dogshit game of Doom ever seen online. If you don't know, darksydephil is a streamer and a little bit of a lolcow who's not only boring as dirt to watch, but has the audacity to charge money and to set minimum revenue goals for doing basic things, like eating the Minecraft movie meal from McDonald's. I'm not watching a nigga halfway across the country eat a meal that I could just buy myself. Fuck you. The most interesting thing he's ever done on stream is jerking off when he thought the camera was off. And I think the fact that I can even say that he's done that at all speaks volumes. I mean, that could happen to anybody, but if that's the most entertaining content you can put out, then oh boy. Doom the Dark Ages came out very recently, and everyone who got their hands on it seems to be enjoying it. I'm over here stuck, waiting for my check to come in, and then saving those checks so I can get a PC that can actually play it. I'll catch up with y'all eventually. I'm very happy that id Software isn't bending the knees and making multiplayer-focused titles from Software. I will definitely be picking up the game and buying the DLC whenever that comes around. But some people, in my opinion, just cannot play FPS games. Doom's movement and combat just does not click with some people. And that's okay. Some people are just too old. Some people get motion sick. Some people are just retarded. And guess one of those darksydephil is. This gameplay is extremely ironic because the actions he does in games feels like exactly what he himself would do if he were in the setting. Not running around and dodging projectiles or, having fun. Nah, fuck that. We sitting in a corner doing only what's necessary. In fact, that pretty much sums up his content as a whole, doing only what's necessary. He doesn't seem to be having fun, and in the words of Reggie, if it's not fun, why bother? Look at him. He just looks so dead inside. Dude, why not just put the controller down and go have fun with your real life friends at this point, if you have any? It's clear that you really don't want to be here, dude. I kind of feel sorry for him. Anyway, that's all we have time for. I've been your host, Alcoholic Horse 48. Have a great day, and a good night.